I want to turn our focus to John chapter 1. How do you understand John chapter 1? The Word became God, Word was God.
If I could just very briefly, 3 clauses. In the beginning was the Word. The term that he uses for was is a timeless verb. It is in the imperfect. So as far back as you wish to push the beginning, the Logos exists. The Logos is pros ton theon, face to face with theon, God. And the Word was God. The position of the word theos in the sentence indicates that it is describing the nature of the Logos. The Logos is as to his nature deity. Now, John is very careful in the prologue to never use the word egeneta, the aorist form of genomai, of the Logos, which would point to a point of origin, a time of creation, until John 1:14, when the Word becomes flesh. So everything else, there's a man who came from God named John. That uses a different verb. When you're talking about the Logos does not have a point of origin in time. Then the Logos becomes flesh in John 1:14 and dwells among us. We beheld his glory, the glory is of the only begotten of the Father. And then you have that beautiful text, which is the bookends. It's the end of John 1:1, John 1:18, bookends of the prologue of the Gospel of John. No one has ever seen God, the monogenes theos, a fascinating phrase, the unique God, who is at the Father's side, literally at the Father's bosom, the position of intimate fellowship. He has exegeted him, he has made him known, he has explained him. So 1:18 and 1:1 together explain to us what's being said. The Word is eternal, the Word has had eternal relationship with the Father, and the Word is as to his nature deity. He is the one who has become flesh and has revealed to us the Father in a perfect way.
You have a very different view of that.
Okay. First of all, a huge assumption is being made here. In the beginning was the Logos. 1,200 occurrences of Logos in the Old Testament. Never a person. Not a spokesperson. God's Word. Your Word is not another son. It's not your son. Until it becomes the Son. This is very easy. Wisdom is with God. We know that. This is very Hebrew. The Word was with God. And it. All things are made through it. If you had an English translation, all of the 8 before the King James. It. So don't assume that capital W is right. It's not a person. In the beginning was that utterance, that intention, that plan, that promise of God. It walked around as that marvelous Messiah, who is uniquely, by the way, unique God. Much debate about whether that's even a genuine text. It's not the, it's more likely a. Hort says that's the highest form of derived being, monogenes, theos possibly. Very doubtful text in 1:18. Don't rely on the doubtful text. Certainly not the unique God. That's wrong. Certainly not what the NIV has there. But start with wisdom and word, and please go back to Matthew. Please note the conversations all around the Gospel of John. Very suspicious.
You know, the fact is, depending on what subject we're discussing, we look at certain texts.
Yes.
If we're talking about pastoral ministry, we look at Paul's pastoral letters. John emphasizes the deity of Yeshua, so of course we're talking a lot about that. It's almost deceptive to say, look at the others, because the others don't contradict this in a single syllable. They reinforce it in many different ways. But let's look at this a little further. John 1:3 says that everything was made through the Word. Well, 1 Corinthians 8:6 tells us that everything was made through Jesus. Colossians 1:16, everything was made through Jesus. Hebrews, the first chapter as well, everything was made through the Son. So it's telling us quite explicitly that this Word is not an impersonal it. I don't worship an impersonal it. An impersonal it didn't die for me. An impersonal it does not make God known. This is a person. The Father creating all things through the Son. The New Testament witness is explicit. All you have to do, and sometimes it's the exact same words used in John 1:3 and these other texts that I just mentioned, the exact same Greek that's used. So the New Testament is explicit. The Word is the Son is Jesus, who was eternally pre-existent.
I want to ask a follow-up.
It's simple.
I want to ask a follow-up question, because I'm not sure I'm understanding. Are you agreeing with what I know the Mormon translation says, for example, that the Word was with God and the Word was a God?
That's a Jehovah's Witness.
Jehovah's Witness, excuse me. You're not saying
I'm
that.
I'm simply saying that you are being misled by the capital W in your translations. In the beginning was the Word. Take it down. Nothing in the Greek about a capital letter. Logos is not a person until it becomes a person at the beginning of the Son. Go back to Matthew and Luke, find out when he began. We've left all of that aside.
So who
then
is
go to
this?
John.
This word is facing God,
No.
is with God.
No, no.
Proston, why do you keep translating autou as it? Just because those other English translations before the King James, which were primarily Latin influenced,
No, from
but as you know, autou is not you can't prove that's a neuter. It can be a masculine, right?
It can be both.
Okay,
Depends on
so
what you
why?
decided.
But the point of the fact of the matter is, when you say, well, it's it, you are taking an assumption there, and I do need to correct something. Your statements about John 1:18, the vast majority of modern scholarship is on our side at this point in regards to meaning of monogenes theos and the occurrence of monogenes theos. P75, P66, Alexander, and the Sinaiticus, they all read that. And so,
Not all, though, not with the article. Not with the article. A. You said the.
But, well,
Better readings with A.
However, whether the article is there or not doesn't change the fact that theos appears in all the most ancient copies of the Gospel of John that we possess.
And what's
is
a
that
uniquely
true?
begotten God? Yes, that's true. But what is a uniquely begotten God?
But see, monogenes means unique, one of a kind. You keep
Exactly.
emphasizing genao. Monogenes is not made of genao. Genao has two news. Monogenes has one. It is genos, from kind or type. It means unique, not begotten. You're reading something in it that's not there.
It's a son word. It suggests a son word.
It doesn't. It certainly can mean one.
I'm going to bring it down to